laboratories. The states were supposed to work out all these different ideas and come up with new concepts and then work them out in the state. And then other states could decide for themselves if they wanted to follow the same thing instead of the federal government saying, no, you will do this, you will do that. Just imagine if the only thing that the government concerned itself was protecting us from initiatory force, from someone outside the country attempting to attack us, invade us. That would be the sole focus of our government, is to protect everyone here in the United States.
Excellent. Thank you, Larry.
Imagine
go ahead, Carlton. Jump in.
Imagine people that are listening in on this call, that are listening into this station. Imagine if that's what we had. Imagine where you can go. Imagine what heights you can soar with those creative ideals that you have in your mind and the things that you wanted to do from childhood. Imagine where your children, the possibilities, the endless possibilities that our families would enjoy if we truly had a protection-only government where their sole focus was just looking at protecting us from outside forces, forces of evil that wanted to do harm to our country. Other than that, you would soar because you wouldn't have the limitations that we have today. You wouldn't be limited in when it comes to your business structure and taking it to a whole new level. We wouldn't have the crazy, there's various different rulings out there, from the tax laws to a whole caveat of other rulings that our government places upon us that restricts us from things that can be accomplished when that is removed. That is what removing the rule of man is all about.
Excellent. Well, with that, removing the rule of man, let's take a break and absorb that, because that is a very powerful and a very realistic statement. So you are listening to NTR, Neothink Radio. This is Steve Fagan, and we will be right back.
NTR. It's a new way of thinking, my friends. It's Neothink. Phone member services at 1-800-480-2336 or visit neothink.com. Hi, this is Shalene, producer of Neothink Radio. I'd like you to meet someone very special, another mentor of mine. His name is Bill Bartman. During the last banking crisis, Bill went from dirt poor to a multi-billionaire. How did he do it? I know, and now I want you to know. Bill wants to personally share with you his proven techniques. So, please go to neothinkradio.com and look for the banner with that handsome face of Bill Bartman. Click on the banner and you'll go directly to Bill's video. Sign up on his website and you'll be all set. It's that easy. Go to neothinkradio.com and click on the banner of Bill Bartman.
We Care About TVP.com is a community of trusted businesses and advertising partners that have come together to join in the support for the 12 Visions Party. When you do business with these fine businesses, a portion of the proceeds go directly to the 12 Visions Party. We Care About TVP.com prides itself on building the economy through win-win partnerships. We Care About TVP.com offers business services such as Convey Media Group, financial services like Innovative Advisors and Nashville Corridor Investment Club. Also, health and wellness services with Corey Health, and more are joining every day. If you are a business owner that supports real change in America, sign up now at WeCareAboutTVP.com. Building the economy through win-win partnerships. That's WeCareAboutTVP.com.
NTR.
Welcome back, everyone. Glad to have you with us. Tonight, we are working with, and actually throughout this whole program, we are doing an overview of Mark Hamilton's speech. And with me this evening are the members of the 12 Visions Party National Committee, Mr. Michael Dilworth, Mr. Tom Carey, Mr. Carlton Roberts, Mr. Larry Wirt, and Mr. Lauren Taylor. And I'm Steve Fagan, your host. Well, we're going to continue on because this has become quite a lively discussion, and I want to still get in that spirit of how we're moving forward. Michael, I'd like to ask you a question about, basically, Mark Hamilton brings the terms up, live and let live. And is this really possible? that this can be handled in this, or is this a dream? Can society move forward without a direction of set rules, as we know that term to be?
You said live and let live, and can society live without a set rules? Well, society cannot live without the prime law, that natural law of forbidden initiatory force. Outside of that, live and let live is exactly how it is. I believe Lauren mentioned the golden rule. That's the golden rule, live and let live. Anything outside of protection from the government, anything outside of that is not live and let live.
Very good point. That's exactly right. It goes back to the prime law. Go back and study the prime law. We've actually done a program on the prime law. So you're right. It all goes back to the prime law. What I'd like to talk about a little bit is there's a role model that was brought up in the speech, and we actually have done a program on this role model, and it really fits in perfectly as somehow the government really had done really some work on this individual, and that's Mr. James J. Hill. And Mark really talks about this as a role model about the Transcontinental Railroad and the interference of the rule of man on James J. Hill in his progress. One thing I've learned, everyone, is it's important that we have role models. And we look at history. History is still important to look at. We all know that. And James J. Hill was an entrepreneur. We're going to talk a little bit later about, career politicians versus career business people and men and women. And we realized that this was a businessman, an entrepreneur, who actually put his own money out and built this railroad system and worked with overseas, with Asia and other areas around the world. And the U.S. government had gone ahead and stomped on that and stopped that progress in action, which shows, again, the rule of man. And it's a major definition of what happened. So if anybody else would like to comment, it'd be great.
Yeah, Steve, this is Carlton Roberts. I think James J. Hill is an excellent example of how the government has no business being in business when it comes to, getting involved in things that is not about protecting protecting us from initiatory force. When you mix in other things in there, you get this catastrophe that happened with James J. Hill. And for those of you that are not too familiar with it, here's a private businessman who says, hey, you know what? I see a need. I want to fill this need. I want to fill this void, and use his own money, created a railroad system. The government said, hey, you know what? No, I think we can do our own thing, and they did their own railroad systems, but it was so costly that for years there was no profit being made back through the government. And because of the different regulations and the rulings that the government put out there, it was so many people that was getting rich. The people that was manufacturing the different parts, they're getting rich off of jacking up the prices on these inferior parts. They're like worthless parts for the railroad. They're building tracks, up on icy hills that become useless, that you can't even use. They're going and making these tracks through areas that a person of a business mindset that's looking for the best for the land and for the people would have never have done. In fact, James J. Hill made the absolute best railroad tracking, made money right from the start, and even started going overseas. Started going over to Japan, to China, and started integrating as an international trading global. But because the government had their hands into it, even though they couldn't make a dime and make a profit off of the tracks that were built, off of years of still being under their profit margin. In fact, they were still in the negative. Because of their ruling, they shut them down because they didn't like what was going on. They couldn't face up to the fact that this is something that should have been left in the hands of the people instead of them taking over and making a charge with it. I look at that and I look at the same thing that's happening today in regards to our education. It's like the government is so much involved with it And it's interesting to note